In today's video, we are going to learn how to offer partial payments to your clients. So we learn in part 1 and 2 of this case study series how to generate invoice, right? So now we're going to offer partial payments for them. So people can pay with multiple payment methods or, pay as they want. So first we're going to create a new object called payments. Just a few fields in there, a price amount, a status dropdown, so we know if we need to charge this transaction or if it's awaiting a payment or if it's already paid, right? And then we just need two relationships in there. One invoice will have many payments, and then one contact will have one payment relationship, which we call paying invoice, and that's the one-to-one we use to know which payment object they are paying for. Also, we'll need a new invoice object field, which I'll call amount paid, and it's basically a rollout field to get the total paid from all the payments for this specific invoice. So then we can move on to the pages. We'll be cloning the thank you page, the invoicing payment thank you page. I'll call it thank you part 4 here. And this time we'll charge a card against a payment object via the one-to-one relationship. So the only difference really is that we check the payment status on this page from the transaction dropdown, which can be, charge invoice, charge transaction, or paid, or awaiting payments. Those are all only 3 options here. And that's all we need to do on our thank you page. Remember, this is a page they get to after they give us their card. We'll be charging the card in the back end, but they need to get to the thank you page and, wait until we confirm the transaction is successful. So now we need another page, and I'll clone my invoice dynamic page here and name it invoice partial payments. And design-wise, it's totally like a normal invoice that we created before, except we get the total from the amount total field instead of from the invoice itself. And then we have 2 new lines above the total for amount paid and amount remaining, right? And that's how they know where they are at. Now, and the main work here, this is the payment block. As usual, we have our status dropdown, same relationship, it's hidden, and we set it as charge transaction. Also, we'll need our invoice relationship in there, paying invoice unique ID, so we know which invoice they are paying for. So we'll have our payment object field here, payment invoice amount through the one-to-one relationship, right? And this field they will use to let us know how much of the invoice they want to pay. In this case, I'm going to use ClickFix shortcodes to pre-fill it with the remaining amounts, and that way they can just change it or just pay the remaining amount. And that's it. They enter an amount, they pay, they give us their card, and then they get to the thank you page we created just before. If you want to generate a PDF of the invoice, you can just use the invoice from part 2. It will work totally fine here. And all that's left really is to do our charge automation. So we'll clone the regular invoice management, which you have access to. You can download that through the assets in the case studies. And so you'll get the details in this imported automation. But basically, now we are getting the trigger from the transaction rather than the invoice. And in our payment hook, we'll be charging only for the amount that they entered. I'm also adding a goal here so I can connect this transaction to the invoice. Because remember before we just had our one-to-one relationship, right? So we don't have the payment as part of all the payments in the invoice. So we are doing that through an Ontraport webhook. That's it. After that, we have our usual, is the transaction successful status, and then, give them access, whatever, generate the PDF, and that's it. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you next week.